Okay, welcome back to the RU Strong Show. I'm very excited about this guest. One is because he's a former Maine Black Bear, which
Mm,
is I'm excited to always have on this show. I don't know how many. I think you're like my fifth one, and I'm hoping to get many more. But
mhm.
also a Rutgers alum, which is awesome. But I want to read off some stats for this young man. He's from Delaware, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
played at Maine for a couple of years, transferred to Rutgers, two-time team captain at Maine, which is really cool. The odds of just being captain once is almost impossible. But to be named twice, it means your team loves you.
Yep.
Freshman All-American, all conference player, second team freshman All-American, third team All-Conference in 21 and 22. And what I love to always highlight for all these young guys or girls who come on the show is those guys who make academic honors,
Hmm.
academic All-American, because that is playing the sport and going to school is almost impossible. But then to become an academic, have academic honors on top of that, it's just crazy. And then to top it off, he signs with the Jacksonville Jaguars in August of 2024, and he's on the team right now, which is really cool. So welcome to the show, Shawn Bowman. Shawn, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Jeff, I just want to first say thank you, for extending the invitation to come on the show. And you kind of hit on everything. I'm from Delaware. I played high school football there, and I was blessed enough to go to the University of Maine on a full scholarship. Got a wonderful education there. While being able to display my talents on the field, and I was also blessed with an opportunity to go to Rutgers for think it was 7 months. It was a quick trip, but it was a life experience that I'll never forget. And kind of like you said, now being in the NFL with the Jaguars is it's been a lifelong goal and dream of mine. So to be living that out and still striving because I still have so much more to accomplish. But I appreciate the time for you to let me tell my story, and I'm excited for the day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a whole slew of questions here to ask you, Sean, and we're gonna rip it out.
Cool.
And what I want to talk to you about today, and we'll kind of hit on a bunch of different areas, but there's not too many young men who can say, "Hey, listen, I played high school football, then I transfer, I signed in like you said, full ride with a one double A school, and then
Hmm.
you transfer up. Most of the guys
Yeah.
transfer down or over, but you transfer up to Rutgers, Big Ten. It doesn't get any bigger or better than that.
Yeah.
And then you take the next leap of faith into the NFL.
Hmm.
So you hit all different areas, and I want to talk to you about the transition, from one to the other as we move along here. But my first question for you is, when did you know that football was your game? Was it 8 years old, 10 years old? What other sports did
Yeah.
you play? And when did you say, you know what, this is the game I'm going to make a living in?
Yeah, so you guessed the perfect age. You said 8. I started playing when I was 6. I started playing in 2006. In my first 2 years, I was like just out there, and then I don't really remember what the change was, but I just remember 2008 like being a year that I just began to realize like dominance in the game and specifically at defensive end. And from there on out, it just was something that I did every single year. And like football to me just kind of became, one of the most favorite aspects of my life. And, it kind of wasn't until I always knew I wanted to play college football. Like I was always in love with college football, but it wasn't really until like my going into my after my sophomore year of high school that I was like, okay, like, I have a really good chance to be able to go to the next level. So I always had the aspiration, but I didn't, not that I didn't believe in myself or anything, but it just, you start to kind of see the way things unfold. College coaches start showing up, and the rest is kind of history. So it started when I was 6, and it's been an amazing journey. It's been a long journey, but there's still a long ways to go and a lot more
Yeah.
that I want to achieve.
Okay. Now, can you remember who was the first college that reached out to you when you were in high school?
Oh yeah, I definitely remember it vividly. It was Wesley. It was a Division 3 school in Delaware. They came to school my freshman year, and my high school coach Dan Ritter, he pulled a bunch of us in there. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 of us, and we went in there. We spoke with them, and that was my first experience with a coach. And from that point in, that was pretty cool, and that was at the Division 3 level. And so but for me, I was in love with big time college football. As most people are. And not that there's anything wrong with the lower divisions, but I know I wanted to get to a spot where I could, play on one of the biggest stages possible. So Wesley coming definitely led to a lot more coaches coming in and out, and it was a pretty cool experience in high school.
Now, what made you say, "Hey, Maine"? Now, Delaware, you got the winter season stuff, but when you
Yeah,
go to Maine, it's a whole nother world, man.
yeah.
How did you figure out I'm going to go up there?
So it's crazy because like I was tons of coaches came to see me in high school, but none really pulled the trigger until Maine. I didn't have any full like no coach came to me and said, "Hey, we're offering you a full scholarship," until Coach Harris Hemiak came and said that to me when Maine offered me my senior year. And I had no idea. Like a lot of people I know from my area, I didn't know Maine was a state. So
You
it's
think it's
funny
another
though.
country?
Literally, yeah, like it's all the way up north. So, but it's funny because one of my he was like my social studies, kind of like a bunch of like civics and like economics, those type of classes. My teacher, Matthew Falls, he's from Old Town. He's a University of Maine alumni. And our junior year, when they start introducing us, like having the college days and things, he would always display stuff about the University of Maine. And I would just kind of look at it because I was like, I mean, I'm probably not going there. Like, I would just kind of like glance over the stuff. And then they came and they offered me a full scholarship, and it was just like a no-brainer for me. I'm like, this 2 weeks before signing day, I'm like, I go up there. This is an opportunity to play Division I football, and it just, I never looked back from there. So,
So when they brought you up for a visit, what'd they do with you?
so I came on visit. It was I think 2 weeks prior there was a visit they had that had a really bad storm. For me, it was just cold, so it wasn't too bad. But I got up there, they definitely we had some good food. I think we went to Sea Dog that first night that I was there. And then really from there it kind of was just a tour of the campus, a typical visit. And we got to kind of see what things were about, meet with the position coaches. I got an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of the players at the time. I believe my host was Eric Robertson. So I kind of got to see what it would be like living in the dorms, which was a big adjustment when I
Yeah.
got.
They make you sleep on the floor?
Nah, he didn't have a roommate, so I had a bed, so it
Okay.
worked out really good. Yeah. So but no, it was awesome. I got to meet a bunch of guys on the team, and a bunch of guys that were on that visit also ended up coming there with me. Like they committed on the visit, so it was an awesome visit, and it was an experience that I definitely am grateful for. You get to get a chance to get on a flight for free, go
Yep.
visit a Division I school, and see where your home's going to be for the next four
Yep.
5 years in my case. So it was a pretty cool visit.
So what was your freshman dorm?
Andrew Scoggin Hall,
Okay.
room 135. I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, mine was Penobscot Hall. Remember that one? You know where that one
Oh,
was?
yeah, that's what I
402.
like this.
Yep. 402 Penobscot. First
Yeah.
floor, no elevator. The elevator didn't work in the building.
Mm-hmm.
We had to walk it up every day. And my sophomore year, I lived in Hancock.
Hancock, yeah, that's right by the by Wells.
Yep.
Or
You
no,
know
that's
what?
Hart Hall. That's Hart Hall.
Well,
Those,
Hart's next to it too.
yeah, okay,
You know,
okay.
so I was, I don't know if you know that floor, they call it the pit. It's downstairs in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived in there. And then my junior year, I lived in York Village, which is now, I think it's administrative buildings, the ones all the way in the back.
Oh, with the diner hall inside of it?
I don't know. They're like small
Uh,
little houses, it looks like, and there's
oh,
numbers of
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
and they used to be dorms, like apartments, on
Mhm.
campus apartments. And then after that, I lived on the street where Pat's Pizza's on. You go
Yeah.
all the way down in the end on the
Mhm.
left. We rented a house down there. So, talk about yesterday. It seems like that was 1983 to
Mhm.
1987. How
And
about
you
that?
still remember like it? That's so
Like
crazy.
yesterday,
Yeah,
like yesterday.
that's awesome.
And yeah, I remember my recruiting trip going up there. And when I say they make you sleep on the floor, I ended up sleeping on the floor with the pillow.
Yeah. No, I definitely when I was a freshman and I had recruits, like there was
Yep.
definitely a bunch of recruits that had to sleep on the floor, but
Oh yeah.
I was fortunate enough I got a bed on my
Oh,
visit.
yeah. That's because you're a big guy.
Yeah.
I was just a little guy showing up there. So let's talk about that for a second. The transition from high school,
Yes, sir.
to up to University of Maine. Talk about that transition. Talk about what that's like to
Mhm.
go from a high school level to the one double A level and having to compete there?
Yeah. So I think for me, I went to school in Delaware too, so it's like Delaware typically has a rep for not having the greatest competition in sports, and to my knowledge, is getting better football wise, specifically talking about. But so you're already kind of looked at as maybe not playing the best competition from a college coach's perspective. So to get the opportunity to go to Maine, like as a Division One program, like you're gonna have to be ready to prove yourself. So I will say the biggest thing, like that I should speak on, the biggest transition was when I was at Howard, the name of my high school. I was a wide receiver there. Like I was listed as a tight end, but like the way we ran our offense, like I wasn't putting my hand in the dirt blocking as much as I was split out wide running routes. So when I got to Maine, we were in a pro style offense. Like I'm learning how to play tight end, like blocking defensive ends consistently. Being in line way more. So that was the biggest transition I think, and another part too was Delaware is such a small place, and where I went to school at was in the inner city. So going from the inner city to going up to Maine, just a completely different
Oh man,
demographic.
that's a culture shock.
Yeah, exactly. So the culture shock was it was wild. It was different, and it's pretty cool because the way Maine recruits is they kind of recruit that area a lot, like Jersey,
Yep.
Pennsylvania, New York. There's a lot of guys kind of in those surrounding parts. So you're going through the same stuff you go through with your teammates, you know what I mean? So the biggest thing though I would say was really is learning the tight end position and how to be efficient at it, because there's so much stuff that we do, and then you go from playing at a not necessarily the biggest state when it comes to competition in football to going to the Division 1 level. So that was the biggest transition for
Yeah.
me, I would say.
So how is that? You showing up, your freshman year, they bring their freshmen in a couple days early, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like showing up? Because when you're in high school, you're one of the best, if not the best guy on the team. You
Yeah,
get to Maine, everybody's the best guy on their team. And when you show up early, it's just the freshmen. You don't even have the other guys there yet, and waiting
yeah.
to see those guys. But
Mm-hmm.
talk about that experience of walking on the campus for the first day amongst your peers now, and
Mm-hmm.
what that, I don't want to say shock is like, but that experience was like.
Yeah, no, I remember it was July 8th, 2018. They had us come up, and it was definitely just a kind of not I don't want to say stepping into the real world, because like I was, in college you're still a kid, but like, we went there, we drove up, my mom and my little brother, my god sister, they were there, and they dropped us off, and or excuse me, dropped me off, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of on my own there, and it was just I remember the time like vividly, but it also just seems like a blur because it's just so much stuff at once, and you're just trying to just observe. You want to impress the coaches. You got to learn playbooks, but you have to move at 1,000 miles per hour. Like it's just it's just a transition that it just kind of happens naturally.
Yeah.
Like you just get up there and you just figure out how it works. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be that freshman that's like all just big eyed, excited to be on campus. Like you want to prove that you can fit in and that you can eventually become a great player for that program. So it was definitely a time. It was awesome up there. And some of the guys that I came in with, are still some of my best friends to this day. And even the ones that aren't best friends, like I'm still, if they reached out or I reached out to them, like it's still
Yeah.
all love. So
It's
it's
family.
exactly,
Yeah.
like how it is. You go up there, you're away from everything. You're literally away from everything, and it's just you just find what works for you up there, and you just find a way to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Talk about connection, right? One of the guys I had on the show, Lance Theobald, he was our running back,
Mm-hmm.
when I played,
Yep.
and he's from somewhere I forget in New York. And again, same transition to go to Maine, like, whoa.
Yep.
And coming up, you know the name Bobby Wilder?
I don't think I heard that name.
Yeah, he was my quarterback when
Okay.
I played, but he became the assistant head coach up in Maine for a long time,
Oh
offensive
wow.
coordinator. Excuse me. Then he became the head coach at Old Dominion,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's the head coach at Tennessee Tech.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So he's had
So,
a nice journey with coaching for
oh
sure.
yeah. So he's going to be on the show in December.
Cool.
But thinking like, hey, listen, love to have you on the show. He's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And,
Just like
and then
that.
40 years later, let's go.
Mm,
You
y'all
know,
gonna be talking probably just like how it was when you were in
oh
college
my
then.
God, we'll talk for too long.
Yeah.
Definitely too long. Now, I looked up your background. When
Mhm.
you were in Maine, what did you major in?
So I started in, I would say from September, the fall semester started September. So September 2018 to like October 2018, I was a chemistry major. And I realized quickly that that probably wasn't the path that I wanted to go down. So then I switched my major to kinesiology and physical education. But I had a concentration in exercise science for like 2 years. And I was having some struggles with, oddly enough, chemistry. I couldn't pass it. Well, I couldn't get the minimum grade. So that's when I switched it over to teaching and coaching. And honestly, it's probably the best decision I could have made
Yep.
because like I fell in love with kind of the educational world, but it's the
Yep.
coaching world as well. So yep.
But kinesiology, that's no easy thing either.
Yeah, nah, it's definitely not. I'm trying to think because when I was in exercise science, like I had some I obviously took the anatomy courses, but even the ones where like there was an athletic training course I had and just learning things about the body, and just kind of trying to apply it, like doing it like, whether it was like administering like there was one class I took where we had to do, I forgot what the word was, like palpations or something. Like
Yeah.
we had to, kind of really learn what the anatomy of the body was. And it was awesome to be able to just, learn like what the lower trunk, how it works, the upper
Yeah.
trunk, like just learning all these different types of things. So it was a challenge, but it was really good though.
And that probably helped you maintaining your physical body and what's
Oh
going
yeah,
on.
for sure. I mean, you get in those courses and you're talking about like one, you're talking about how to do things properly from a technique standpoint. Like maybe you're in like a fitness course, but you're also just learning about how the body works and like I think one thing that I think of vividly, I took a course my junior year, I believe, and we were learning a lot about like kind of the structure of the knee and, learning about all the ligaments. And obviously in football, like those are really big issues that happen, and ligament tears in the knees can be a very bad thing. So it's like, learning about that and like kind of learning what leads to it and what are ways to prevent it, what are ways to strengthen those areas certainly helped me out a lot. So it definitely was a great learning experience
Yeah.
from.
And it's a tough major.
Yeah, exactly.
That along with football. So I'm still going backwards in time a little bit,
Yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
so cool. Um, what kind of advice can you give the high school guys about preparing, between high school football season's over. Okay, I'm signing my letter, even though they don't do that anymore now. No more
Yeah.
letters of intent. But now, okay, Maine says you're coming.
Hmm.
You say you're coming, but you're not showing up till July 18th, 20th,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Hmm.
What advice can you give the young guys about preparing physically and mentally for that challenge when you show up on campus?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to my senior year after my football season ended. That was even before I knew I kind of was going to Maine. I didn't really know what was happening. I'll say like one of the biggest things, that I think is, I don't want to say an issue because I don't speak to, like the youth or high schoolers, but just kind of what I saw, like even amongst teammates, like, maybe not always having a place to work out or, having the resources necessarily, but I believe where there's a will, there's a way. If you know
Mm,
you're going to a school in July and it's January, like, okay, yeah, maybe you might not have access to the greatest weight room, but you can go outside and find things to do. Like you can go find a hill to sprint at. There's little small things that you can do to kind of, prepare yourself as best as you know how. And the thing that I believe the most is like if you feel that you've done everything you can do to put yourself in the best situation, whatever it is you're preparing for, then whatever the results are, it's, you did your best. So, I think just not, you know, just not being complacent with like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. So just finding a way to make it work. I think that's definitely the biggest thing. But also too, like also give yourself some grace. Cause like I remember when I was kind of preparing for Maine, and this was maybe like April, May, kind of leading up to it, like, I would feel like, oh, am I doing enough? Like this, that, and the third. But you gotta understand, like you're about to enter a whole different world. Like once you get to college, you have these breaks. You have winter break, you have summer break. You're gonna get a packet. You're gonna get whatever it is. People like the strength coaches are gonna tell you what to do, how to come back in shape. So like, don't feel like you have to have everything figured out. just do your best. And, when you get there, when you get on campus, like, even if you feel like you did your best and you might not be ready, like that's what you're there for. They're gonna get you ready. So it's a process. It really is it's a long process.
All
So
right.
definitely, yeah.
So talk about the playbook. When
Hmm.
they threw that playbook at you for the first time, how did you handle that? Was it overwhelming? Was it easy to pick up?
Hmm. I mean, I would honestly say, like, it's kind of hard to remember, like, now, because that was so long ago, and I've had a lot of playbooks since then. But to me, like, learning a playbook kind of has always been fascinating. And when I got to college, we use signals a lot more. And for some reason, like, signals, like, to me, are like one of the coolest things, because I feel like it's like another language. Like, we have all these random signals that mean these different things. So I'm not gonna say that I didn't struggle with a playbook, because I did, but it really just came down to studying, and just being fortunate enough to get reps to practice it. Like, you can study it on paper all you want, but it doesn't really start to lock in your brain until you're able to walk through the reps or practice the reps in a live situation. So, I wouldn't, for guys who are, excuse me, girls who may be worried about, what their playbooks may be, like, when they get to the next level in their respective sports, it's a process. Like, everyone's going to have growing pains with it, but you're going to get to a point where it clicks and you're like, okay, like,
Yep.
now I know this like the back of my hand. So it'll be,
I would imagine when you're studying the playbook that you were enjoying it a little bit more than chemistry.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's yeah, nah, because, like, when you're looking at a playbook, like, I think it's cool because, obviously these are the plays you run, but, like, when you start to think about, and we're talking about football specifically, like, the history of the game, like, these are all plays that have, like, just been created by some mind along the way, so it's like you're learning your playbook, but you're also just, like, kind of learning just, like, some history of the game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it is pretty cool, so definitely I'll take the playbook over chemistry any day for sure.
So how did you balance? I asked this question to all the athletes that are on the show. How did you balance the 30 to 40 hours a week of football
Hmm.
with class, with your regular social life?
Hmm.
How did you handle all that?
Yeah, honestly, I'll be honest. I struggled a little bit for sure. My first year was easier than my second year, because I redshirted, so I wasn't traveling with the team. And I was a lot more in my shell, so I didn't really do a lot more in terms of, like, maybe hanging out with friends on the weekends. I was kind of just I practiced, and then on the weekend I stayed in the dorms. I played the game, and so I was able to stay on top of my schoolwork and things. But the struggles really came my second year when I started playing in 2019. And I didn't just start playing, like, I was starting and I was, like, playing the whole entire game pretty much. So, like, I didn't really, one, know how to take care of my body properly, and two, I did not, like, intentionally, like, manage my time whatsoever. So, it was I that following semester, I was actually on academic probation, because there was two classes that I didn't do enough in, and I didn't, set myself up in a spot to be able to pass those courses. So I definitely had some struggles, and it kind of got to a point where I was like, all right, like, if you don't pass your requirements on academic probation, you're not even going to be at the school the following year. So I had to get that in order. And if your life outside of your sport is messy, then it's going to start trickling into your sport. So it's just definitely a credit to a lot of the guys that I kind of was able to see how they did things. When I was a freshman and sophomore, a lot of the older guys, and I just kind of started to figure out what worked for me. I added some structure in my life, and I'll be honest, like, I started dating my current girlfriend at the time, and she is very organized, and she definitely kind of taught me some things, and just, like, small ways that you can organize your life outside of your sport. And then, once that starts to happen, things start to clear up in your sport. And when you get on that field, the court, whatever it is, you're able to just, like, tune everything else out, and now you can focus all your time to that. So
Yep.
it was a process for sure. It wasn't always all good and gravy
Yeah.
starting out.
Now, was your girlfriend an athlete up there too?
Oh yeah, she played softball there. She was a pitcher, and she also did hit a lot towards the later end of her career as well.
What's her name?
Caitlin Fallon.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, she just finished her last season this past spring, in May. So yeah, we both play sports up there. It's pretty cool.
All right. Yeah, I had two softball players from Maine on the show.
Oh yeah.
You know, Kai Enos?
Oh yeah, Kaya. Yeah, yeah. That's like
Yep.
one of her. That's like one of her best friends. They play together.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, she was on. And oh my God, I'm drawing a blank here. You'll know this name. She's a school sports therapist now.
Um,
Haley Perkins. You know Haley?
yeah. I think
Yep.
she was a bit older. Like I think when I was like a freshman, she was kind of towards the end of
Yeah.
her career. Yep.
Yeah, she was on too. What
Dang. Oh,
stories that both of them have? Holy
yeah.
smokes. All you guys have tremendous stories, you know? But I'll tell you, everybody brings up Pat's Pizza
Yeah.
every time, you know? Um, so you got a lot of things happening. You're up in Orono, Maine. It gets cold in like up there now. It's snowing now up there,
Yeah, it's freezing up there.
right? What's your most memorable moment while you're up there in Orono?
Like sports wise or just in general?
Anything sport could be sports, could be friends, could be school, could be anything.
Well, I know sports wise, my favorite moment was probably um in 2021 when we beat UNH at UNH, like because we won the musket back. I don't think we had the musket since like 2018, and like we were just running all over their field. Like I just got goosebumps thinking about that. Like that probably was one honestly my greatest moment in sports. You know, like it's just because that rivalry right there is just it definitely it's a serious rivalry in my opinion. You know, so that was the biggest thing. And honestly, as far as just kind of like school life, student life, I feel like it's a typical answer, but when I graduated from there, like, and I was just able to kind of like not close that chapter in terms of like, that was the end of it, but like just, I was there for 5 years. I'd accomplished so much in sports. I built so many connections, and like I just said, like I was on academic probation at one point. Like when I graduated, like I was just so proud, like I was just like, and I just have so much like love for the University of Maine because like I feel like when I graduated, like I was like looking at the younger version of myself, like when I was 18 and I was 23 at the time when I graduated, like I just was like the way that I've grown and like how much I've matured, like it was a full circle moment for me. And that was probably honestly my favorite time there just as a student,
Yeah,
it's kind of just able to just, say that I graduated and just everything that I went through up there. It was an awesome
yeah.
feeling for sure.
So talk about the mental challenges you had up there. You obviously the academic, right? But talk about like how did you handle all of that stuff mentally?
Yeah. It's a support system for sure. Like, you got to realize like a lot of the guys that you're with up there are going through the same things, if not more. And I lived at a house my whole time there, and there was various numbers. One time there were six of us in the house, there was four of us. Like it was, I lived with an amazing group of friends who are my best friends to this day. And it was, kind of just leaning on them, and also I mentioned my girlfriend, like she was a huge part. But for myself, like it just when I got older, kind of after towards like the pandemic happened and I cleared up my academic probation stuff, I started to just take more time to do things that I felt prepared me and kind of just set me up for success. So I started dedicating more time to like before and after practice. I'll get out there earlier, work on some things. After practice, I'm on the field working on stuff like, and I just feel like over the years, like those little moments, spending 5 minutes doing this, 10 minutes extra doing that, it just started to compound, and I just saw myself growing so much. So I think I really just tried to, when things might have been, going tough, I might have been struggling a bit mentally. I kind of just leaned on my sport, and I kind of put that first. And, I know we are student athletes, but, your sport can pull you out of a lot of things and motivate you to want to do better in the classroom and things like that. So it really was just, finding what worked for me and just also knowing that, tough times don't last. Like there's always
Mm.
going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just every single day, regardless of the previous day's result, like you just got to get up, find what works for you, and just keep going at it. It's a process playing college athletics.
You just said that your tough times don't last. What do you think? When you're in the moment, right?
Mhm.
Right, Sean, you're in that tough time. It almost feels like it lasts forever. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't, is this ever going to end? Can
yeah.
you talk about that? Like you just said, tough times don't last. I'm writing this stuff down when you're saying it.
Mhm.
What kind of advice can you give to the young guys or girls that are in that tough time right now and they just can't see that light, like you said, the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I think, a mindset that I started to adopt, especially like in my later years at Maine, was like, you're where you're at for a reason. Like, whether you may have spiritual beliefs or not, like the universe, whatever, puts you where you're at for a specific reason. And the things you go through, like it's such a typical thing people say, like you don't lose, you learn lessons, but like that's really the truth.
Mm.
Like if you failed at something, it's just because there wasn't an area that you were efficient enough. Like I feel like there's truly value in losing. And like I said, you hear that amongst so many professional athletes, so much successful people in the world. And when you're in that tough moment, like I don't know, because it's just like I feel like it's just kind of it varies per person, because not everyone has the same support system. Not everyone might not have the same mental discipline, but I feel like when there's a belief that, like, for example, for me, I knew what I wanted to accomplish was get into the NFL, right? And that isn't something that is done just, it doesn't just happen naturally. Like, you have to have some luck in it. You know what I mean? The NFL is a very tough business, but you also have to, like, give the game everything that you have, and it got to a point where it was like, okay, this might be a tough time right now. I might feel crappy today. I might not feel like doing this, but what's the end goal? What am I trying to achieve out of this? Why am I doing this? And I would say that kind of drove me out of a lot of, decision making in terms of like, oh, maybe I can go hang out, or I could, get some sleep tonight, or I could, instead of, not instead of just going straight to sleep, maybe I can spend 10-15 minutes extra stretching, watching some tape before I go to bed, which is going to benefit me for the next day, so I think it's kind of asking yourself, like, what's my end goal out of this? Like, what am I trying to achieve by being in this major, participating in this sport? Like, what is this helping me? It's not necessarily always how you feel in the moment. It's like, what are you really trying to get out of it? Like, now I feel like can kind of push you past your feelings, getting in the way of, your decision making at times.
So let's drive on that for a little bit. You said look at what you want to achieve, make
Mm-hmm.
good choices. What's your end goal? Your end goal is the NFL.
Yep.
Now, I played at Maine. When I played there, I think I don't know. If we had three guys in 4 years make the NFL, it was a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Now there's a lot more guys come out of that school that make a roster.
for sure.
But it's not Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
not. Yeah.
It's not a Power Five. It's not the Big Ten. It's not the SEC. It's not the ACC. When you're a high school kid and you're like, "Hey man, I want to make the NFL," and you're hoping for the Big Ten scholarship, the
Yeah.
ACC, the SEC, and you don't get it. And I don't want to say you got to settle, but you kind of have. Okay, I got to
Yeah,
take
no,
this route.
I think that's a fair word to use. Like, like we can call it what it is. Like, you Division 1A and Division 1 AA. Like, there's levels to it. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yep.
you look at the history of the drafts, and especially in recent years, like, you don't really see many guys getting drafted from the Division 1 AA level in general.
Right.
So it definitely is like settling, but it's all about how you look at it though. Like,
Right.
you can say you're settling for not the bigger schools, or you're settling, this is the opportunity that works for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you're gonna get what's meant for you. So
Yeah. Because if you're good, they'll find you.
yeah, and that right there was the, like, when someone told me that along the way, like, that was all I needed, and that's all I ever hung on to. And I always told myself, I was like, if I'm meant to play in the NFL, it's going to happen, and not just by luck, like, not by saying like, oh, if I'm meant, it's going to happen. Like, you have to follow it with the work, you have to follow it with the belief, but they're going to find you.
Yeah.
That the NFL, they've been doing it forever in terms of finding, the diamonds in the rough at schools smaller than Maine, so it'll happen if it's meant to, for sure.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you're up at Maine, you have a great time, you freeze your butt off,
Hmm.
You meet your girlfriend, which is sounds like it's going to continue to go and grow,
Yeah,
right? Which is
yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
You learn a lot, but then you graduate, and now like I got to make a decision.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that decision,
Yeah,
transfer portal, because when you're in the transfer portal, it's probably a little bit more advanced today than it was when you were in it.
yeah, for
Next
sure.
year is going to be even
Hmm.
crazier than this year.
Yeah,
So just talk about that decision. That's got to be such a mentally challenging. Hey, I got another year of eligibility. The guys on your team in Maine, like, hey, don't go. We
yeah.
want you to stay here, but you know you have to make a leap,
Hmm.
to get to that next level you're trying to achieve personally. Talk about that mental challenge of, hey, Maine portal. Okay, now let's get back to like we said, hey, you show up at Maine first day. How about then you show up at Rutgers first day?
Yeah.
Whole
Mhm.
nother world.
Whole different ball game. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Jeff. Like that decision, up until this point, has been the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. And that just really speaks volumes to how much love I have for University of Maine. There's a different world where like I wish that I was able to finish out my career there entirely. But like we talked about, what was the end goal for me? And I poured everything I had into that program at Maine. And there was a sometimes you get feelings in your body, you get things that linger on your mind a bit more than other things usually do. Like, and for me, like that whole semester leading up to when I decided to do it, it was a constant battle that I was having, honestly, and it to the outside, it might have looked amazing, like, oh, this kid's going from the CAA to the Big Ten, like, everything should be great for him. But like it was a truly like a tough time for me mentally. But I went with my gut. I followed what I thought was going to put me in the best position possible to have an opportunity to earn a chance to play in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like it's the NFL is so the percentage of getting in there is so tiny. So it's like when you talk about getting a chance, it's really just earning a chance to maybe get a mini camp. And for me, I was fortunate enough to be signed as an undrafted free agent. But when I made that decision, it was strictly for what my end goal was, and I wanted to find a way to get to the NFL. And I as much as I love Maine, like they will forever have a place in my heart. Like I feel like me going to Rutgers was a necessary move. And then you talk about that first day there. When I met Coach Shiano, and as I was there and just saw the way things were running, like it created such an amazing like opportunity for me to like see what it's going to be like now in the NFL, because a lot of the things that he preached, a lot of the ways that he ran things there is very similar to what you get on a daily basis in the NFL. So albeit it was a tough time for me to leave Maine, like it for me personally, it was something that I felt was necessary. And if I had to do it, I probably would make the decision again, because I don't like to look back and say, what if I did this, what if I didn't do that? Like it just that's the way things go. And especially as a man, the decisions you make, you live with them, and you try your best, and you can make the best out of it. So it was a tough time, but I'm fortunate and blessed for the way that it worked out.
So there's a bunch of guys sitting here right now, right?
Hmm.
Listening to this. Well, not yet, but once we go live, they're going to listen. And they're thinking about hitting the transfer portal.
Yeah,
What advice can you give them? What's it like to put your name in there? And
yeah,
it's not like as soon as you hit the button, boom, your phone's ringing.
yeah.
Like talk about that mental side of, hey, I'm doing it. And then what's your expectation once you're in it?
Yeah, so I think the messed up part about the portal now is like you can have a player who's like he gets to school his first semester and he doesn't like it, and then he decides to leave right after. And I think like a lot of, because you'll see like even at the end of this season, I'm sure the number is going to break its record from last year of however many guys entered the portal. Like it just kind of turns into like an escape, you know what I mean? And I wasn't escaping a bad situation. I wasn't leaving a place where I felt like wasn't utilizing me. It was more about just the making that step and showing I can play at a higher level. At the Big Ten, we talk about being in my opinion, the best conference in Power Five. But I would say before a player enters the portal, like for me, it took me, I would say, about 6 months to make that decision. it's not something that you just do lightly, I feel like, because it's you can get in that portal and you can stay in that portal for the rest of your career. Like, and that's the part that like the transfer portal is like this big, like glorious, like free agent thing where guys can make a lot of money with NIL things, but like that's not the reality for every player that enters
No.
the portal. So I would just say like, I probably made like 30 pros and cons lists, with my support system. I talked to some of my coaches, like life coaches I had that kind of helped me out with things. Even with some of my teammates, you know what I mean? Like you call it what it is. Like guys, that's the landscape of college football. Like you bounce ideas off of each other, and it ultimately came down to me having to make that decision for myself. So it's at the end of the day, if a player decides to enter the portal, okay, like boom, that's the decision you're making, but you made that decision, so you have to be willing to live with whatever comes with it, whether it's good or bad. So that's the biggest thing is like you can't be mad at the results because you're the one who chose to ultimately do
Yeah. So once you hit the enter button, if that's what you do,
that.
like how long does it take before someone's reaching out to you? If so, how many other schools reached out to you?
Well, the process for me, and this is another part too, is like you got to go up to your compliance office, tell them you're entering the portal, essentially telling them that you don't want to go to school there no more. And then you wait for your name to clear, I think the next day. And then like whenever I don't think it's a certain time the portal opens, but like it'll like I think for me, I did it on a Wednesday, Thursday at 9 a.m. I was officially in the portal. So that's kind of how it worked for me. But once I entered the portal, I mean, my phone was like it was going like nuts. I mean, like just like tons of coaches following me, like literally like if I put my phone down, it would just be like new notifications coming through, follows, DMs, things like that. So it was I would say the most that I've ever been on my phone in like a span of a day and a half. Like I was on the phone all day, all these random numbers texting me. But that's also because I was a grad transfer who kind of had a successful career, right? It's not like that for everyone that enters the portal. So I think that's I was a little bit conscious of the situation that I was in, like sometimes guys in like programs are looking for someone who has experience playing. Obviously want to take a chance on a guy who's already proved himself versus someone who hasn't even had an opportunity to play. So, I kind of had to do some evaluating and I felt comfortable with entering the portal that like I wasn't going to kind of be out of luck and have nowhere to play. I knew, I was confident that somebody would want me to come play for them. So that's kind of how it went. And then, ultimately ended up, committing to Rutgers. So that was, kind of how it went for me.
So let's talk about that now.
Yep.
Which is we just spent, a long time talking about the
Mm-hmm.
transition from high school to Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, you show up in, I don't know, July, maybe even sooner, probably right as
I
soon as
showed
you,
up. Yeah, it was like middle of June or something like
yeah,
that.
like you're it's year round over there.
Yeah.
So what was that like showing up, new school, new
Mhm.
team, new everything,
Yeah.
and now you're not just with good players. Like Maine's got a lot of really good players.
Yeah.
Now you're with NFL caliber
Yeah.
across the board
For
on
sure.
that team. How the
For
heck did
sure.
you handle that?
I would say like one, I mean, I remember from the minute that like when Coach Yano called me, I remember they were like, yeah, I was talking to some of the coaches and they were like, you be expecting a call from him. And then Greg Schiano with Carl ID popped up across my phone. And I'll be honest, like he's one of those people when he talks to you, like you're
He's
listening.
intense.
You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
listening. So like right then and there, I already knew I was okay. Like, I'm talking about wanting to play in the NFL. Like this is someone who's done like proven that he can help players get to that point time and time. So that was that. And then, fast forward to when I get there, it was awesome, honestly. Like I felt it from the minute I came on my visit. Like it was, they had guys, I was around Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey, Robert Longerbeam, Eric Rogers, like they all were just amazing on the visit. You know what I mean? Like when I was on my visit, I could tell immediately that it was a family there, and that like and that's one of the values of the program is family. And it was clear to me that that wasn't a facade just for the visit. Like they were honest with me, and they were like, it was amazing from that point on. So, but when I got there, yeah, I mean, you can definitely See the difference in some players. Speed increases a little bit. You got a lot. I don't want to say a lot more faster guys, but like you just talk about going from a school that really doesn't get 3, 4, 5 stars in Maine to go into the Big Ten. Like that's what you're practicing against. That's what you're playing against every week. But it really what it came down to was just one buying into the program. I think that was the biggest thing was like, all right, now I'm coming here. I'm a member of the team. Like the first and best thing that I could do for myself is show them that I'm buying in, that I want to be a great teammate. First and foremost, that I'm not just coming there selfishly just to be like, oh, I'm here just to go to the NFL. Like I think that's the biggest thing. And as you're with a new place, you kind of just adapt to the way things are in there. And I feel like that's what I did. Like Rutgers is you'll hear it and he'll always say it. Coach will always say it is like you can't play there unless you love football. And like I feel like that'll be a whole nother story for another day because like you can't play at Rutgers unless you love football. And and for me, I found out that I do love football because
Yeah.
it's very hard there. And but I'm a better man because of it. I'm certainly a better football player because of it. But it was a transition, and but like I was saying earlier about that journey to Maine, like you look around and there was what like 120 of us at Rutgers. We're all going through the same thing. We
Yeah.
all out there on that practice field together doing the same stuff. So it definitely was a transition, but I'm grateful for it.
Now, you said it was hard. What made it hard there versus Maine?
Yeah. I would say coach, like he's a enforcer for sure. Like he wants his message get across. He wants things done a certain way, and like if it's not up to the standard, he's gonna let you know. Like, and this is not no bash towards any of the Maine coaches, but in my time at Maine, like there weren't really many times where I got trying to word this lightly for the podcast views ripped by the coach. You know what I mean? It happened
Yeah.
occasionally, but there were plenty of times where I wasn't doing things up to the standard or doing things correctly, and coach let me know about it. And it's not belittling you. It's
Yeah.
because he wants you to be great. Like he wants you. He wants the when you get out there on Saturday and you're putting on that uniform, he wants everyone to be able to go out there and play to the best of their ability. But it's because he's holding a standard. And I would say the way we practice, was definitely very, very intense. We talk about one of the things there is violence, and that's strange form and finish. And it's really you talk about like a little thing that I had realized in my game that was like kind of a discrepancy was like after I did my job and the ball was going that way, I wouldn't run to the ball. Well, there every single person on the field is running to the ball. Like when you turn on a clip, there needs to be 22 people all chasing towards the ball or whatever their specific indication of finishing on that play is. And that was one of the biggest things for me, just from a physical standpoint, was like they're sitting here, they got people watching the tape afterwards, and they're like making sure that every single person on there is just running to the ball. We're not even talking about assignment. We're not talking about execution. We're just talking about your effort. And that was a big transition that I had was as soon as my job was done, now I gotta go run. You know what I mean? And that kind of that wears on you over the course of a 2.5 hour practice. You know what I mean? So there were so many things there that were challenging, but like now looking back on it, every single thing that I went through there has prepared me for where I'm at now. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, I'm truly, truly blessed for that experience.
I think part of the reason why they make everybody run to the ball is you just never know when that ball is going to pop out.
Literally, nah. I think I'm pretty sure one of the they last year was the first year with OC Coach Shiraka and my tight end Coach Orrick at the time was telling us why he so bought into that too is because when he was coaching at one of his schools prior, there was like a guy like a tight end that fell down on the ground like doing his block like he whiffed, got up, sprinted 20 yards down the field, and the running back fumbled, but he recovered it. So it's really just kind of just displays just like that grittiness, playing hard nosed football with high effort,
Yeah.
and you turn on the tape at Rutgers, that's what they do for sure.
So how about this silly question? Facilities.
Hmm.
right? Right? I listen, you should have seen the locker room when I played up there. You guys had the Taj Mahal compared to what I had. you know. But you go from Maine's facility, which up there, they treat you really great. You're like a celebrity up there because there's nothing else out there. It's you, baseball and hockey, maybe basketball too.
Yep.
But yeah, outside of that, there's no pro team up there. You guys are the pro team. But then you come down here to Rutgers. You go from I don't know, what does Maine hold? 5,000 people, maybe if it's packed.
Nah, it's up there. It's up there. I think it's like 10,000.
Is it 10?
Yeah. Hmm.
So 10,000 people. And then
Hmm.
you go to Rutgers, which holds 51, which is still probably one of the smaller stadiums in the Big Ten. And
Yeah.
then you go out to Nebraska, you go to Michigan, and you're
Hmm.
playing in front of 110. Like, what the heck is that like?
Yeah. I mean, that right there was like, that's what I was talking about earlier. Like when I think of college football, like that's big time college football. Like that's what you like strive to do. You're longing to do that. And it was definitely a transition, but honestly though, the when I was at Maine, like we always we played Boston College, we played Georgia Southern, and granted those stadiums weren't on the level of the Big Ten, but we've had experience going to opposing stadiums, having success, and playing in front of 20, 30,000 people. So like, the thing that I realized when you get in those games, like yeah, when you run out, it's electric, it's amazing, but as soon as that ball's kicked and like you're on that field, it's just a 100-yard football field, 53, and I think a third wide. It's the same football field that you've been playing on, your
Yeah.
whole life, and you kind of start to tune that out. So, but yeah, I played in some big time games at Maine that definitely propelled me into being able to just kind of, just treating those games like they were regular, despite the larger crowds for
Yeah.
sure.
I'll tell you one thing I know you get it. You get a hell of a lot more gear at Rutgers than you do at Maine.
Yeah, nah, that is true. Nah, for sure. I mean, it comes down to, obviously the differences in the conferences,
Oh
money
yeah.
like that. So, but I'll tell you what though, being at Maine made me cherish the gear that I got at Rutgers a lot more. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
when I got my stuff at Maine, I'm holding on to that. I'm taking care of that because, yeah, you might not be getting that much more, but I mean, at the least you can do is just be thankful for what you got. So,
Right.
definitely, learned a lot of valuable lessons when I was at Maine for sure too.
Oh yeah. So what do you think is the biggest difference mentally? Forget
Mhm.
physically, because we can talk physically all day long about Maine to Rutgers. But how about mentally? What's the biggest difference mentally from transitioning from a 1AA to a 1A school, sports wise, mentally?
Well, I mean, you talk about conference games like Big Ten games, and then playing like CAA conference games, and don't get me wrong, I believe the CAA is one of the greatest conferences out there for sure. Those are tough games, but like you kind of talked about, you're playing against a lot more NFL caliber players when you get to the Big Ten. So the margin for error is completely shrinked. And I learned to prepare a little bit better when I was at Rutgers. And that's just kind of what happens with life experiences, you know what I mean? And you go to places and they do things differently, and you realize the effort that some people might put in more on little details. Like things are just different wherever you go in the coaching, or excuse me, in the college world, sports world, whatever you're going, So mentally it really is just, you're practicing hard and all that, but then like once that your scheduled portion of the day is over, now it's time for you to do your portion of the day, and that was something when I was at Maine early on, I really didn't do. I'll be honest. Like I kind of was, if our schedule was from, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., then I was doing that. And then the rest of the day was whatever. And, as I got older in my career in Maine, I started doing way better with that, extra tape, extra recovery, all those type of things, but when you get to Rutgers, that's kind of already the standard, you know what I mean? And like, they create things for us, a lot more cut ups and things like that we're able to have the stuff so easily at our disposal, you know what I mean? So it's just it really kind of just depends on where you go, you know what I mean, and how much of a standard they hold on those type of things. And you just realize though, like when you turn on the tape, you might see, okay, yeah, the score of this game was, we lost by this many points, but then you look at two or three plays that determine the outcome of that game, and it's just like two or three plays out of, however many plays there are in a game. Like you start to realize like the little details are what matters the most, and
Yeah.
got to put so much time into your preparation because it's going to lead you to success.
Yeah, one or two plays in a different direction can make a difference in a game.
And I've been on honestly, I've been on the worser side of that pretty much my whole entire collegiate career, I would say. And I mean, even now in the NFL, I mean, although I'm not playing, like we're currently struggling. We're not where we want to be at, but like you turn on the tape and like just a few things, you know what I mean? Like that we just if they went a little bit differently, the records are flipped, you know what I
Oh
mean? So
yeah.
it's just but that's the beauty of the game though. Like, you know what I mean? It's such a like a detail oriented game. Like it really comes down to the preparation and who can do the little things better because the little things will you'll
They
see
add up.
and they add up and they're
Oh my
huge.
God, yeah. And that's why you go football, just don't know the way it's going to bounce,
Literally, you don't.
right? You don't. So how about challenges? What do you think was your biggest, let's say, challenge at Maine and your biggest challenge at Rutgers?
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, I honestly I kind of have been thinking about this a lot, like in the last since when was that June? So like a year and a half from when I got to Rutgers and until now I've been thinking about a lot, like the challenges and adversity that I've overcome. And I'll be honest with you, like, I think my biggest thing at Maine, and I don't necessarily want to say I didn't have as much success as I could have. But I definitely have no problem admitting that I struggle with getting complacent at times at Maine. And I think I don't want to say you don't hear that often, but like I was at a place where I knew that I was the best player in the room, and when I say that, I mean that in the most humble way possible. And truly confidence in myself and the ability, and like what value I brought to the team. And I think that's honestly something that any player should have playing, these sports that we all play. But and even though I never went to practice like, oh, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to go as hard today. Like that was never the case. There just wasn't like something drive me where I felt like I needed to prove myself every day. And
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough to still be able to achieve the success I had, but I know that was an issue because if I called up my position coach right now, we could talk about all the times during training camp he had to pull me to the side and be like, "You're dragging a little bit during training camp." And you know what I mean? That's just the reality of the situation. Like none of us are perfect. We're human beings, and sometimes those things happen naturally. So I would say like going into my last season in at Maine in 2022 was like my best year in terms of that. And credit to Coach Stevens because he came in there and he wanted to really instill like just that toughness and grittiness in us. And every day was physical. It was tough, and it kind of forced you to be on your P's and Q's. So I feel like I got better in that aspect. And then when you look at Rutgers, you look at my career in Maine, I played in like 40 games or whatever. I started in pretty much every game I played in. I had a lot of success, and then I go to Rutgers, and I'm not playing as much as I would like. I'm not being utilized the way that I would like. And that was, the biggest challenge I've had in football thus far, because it was, in my opinion, the first time that I kind of had um one no like there was no complacency at all because I truly had to go prove myself every day and prove why I feel like I should be playing a little bit more, whatever it may be. And just kind of during that time it was really just kind of what I was talking about earlier, like acceptance of this is a decision that I made. So when I go out here every day, I have to go out here and I have to try to prove myself. I have to go make the most out of this. So I think that time at Rutgers was, like I said, it made me a better man. It made me a better man and football player as well. But when I look at the person that I am now, post Rutgers, pre Rutgers, like it's light years difference. You know what I mean? And I definitely as hard as it was needed, and I appreciated it.
Well, Sean, let's talk about that for a second because you said something a while ago in the beginning when maybe it was even before we turned on the show. We're talking about some of these guys, the transfer portal. They make a decision, they show up 30 days into it or less, and like I made a wrong decision, and they're out the door again.
Yeah.
You just got finished saying, "Hey, I showed up, wasn't playing as much," and you decided to stay and keep pushing and keep working to elevate yourself to another level
Mhm.
versus like some of these other guys, I'm not getting enough time. I'm out.
Yeah.
Talk about that decision to stay and not be complacent and elevate yourself to get to where you want to be versus, hey, because the transfer portal makes it so easy now. I just leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, for real. I think you know, when I talked about earlier, like when you get to a new place, you got to buy in to the values of the team and the program, and one of the biggest messages that coach preaches there is family, and the acronym is "Forget about me, I love you."
Yep.
Right. So I took it personal. You know what I mean? I was like, I came here, obviously with a selfish goal in terms of wanting to get to the NFL, but like while I'm here, I want to be a part of the team and I want to, contribute to the team's success. But, I never thought that because it's like things just don't always go your way. You know what I mean? And like here I am, like I made this decision to leave late into my senior year. Like it's up to me to make the most out of this. Like no one's coming to save me. Like this is what I chose to do. This is the path that I'm choosing to take. And like I said about the family value, like it's true. Like it's not about me when you're talking about football. Like, yeah, we all have our own individual aspirations, our individual goals and things you want to achieve. But like when you talk about the ultimate team sport, like your team success leads to individual success for everybody. And like that's what I started to realize as I was in this. I was like, regardless if I'm not playing as much as I wanted or I'm not, getting used as much as I want, I'm still getting on the field. I'm still getting an opportunity to get out there. So like, all right, when I'm on the field, let what I get the opportunity to do speak for itself, and sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't. But the one thing that I like appreciated the most was like I feel like when I turned that tape on of myself at Rutgers and we talk about some of the standards they hold there, like I feel like I was just playing, just like trying to make the most out of whatever opportunity I had. I wasn't letting a rep go by versus at Maine. I'm used to getting, if we have a high rep game, I might have 70 reps in a game versus Rutgers. The most I might have had all season was like 20 something reps. But those 20 reps, in my opinion, I would go out there and I would lay it all on the line, give as much effort as I possibly could. So, it kind of turned into or turned away from feeling sorry for myself versus for, all right, this is what you're in. How are you going to make the most out of it? Like, how are you going to get something from this? And it's so many things to credit to that. So many people from Rutgers, so many people on my outside life, my family, coaches that I had. It truly is like for me, a village helped me get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people and a lot of things that I could thank, for getting me out of that mindset, and not ever thinking that I needed to leave just because things weren't going my way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not that type of person. I started it, so I got to finish it.
Most memorable moment at Rutgers.
Most memorable moment at Rutgers. Dang, nah, that season was awesome. Well, I got two. First one was just running out on the field when we played Northwestern. Like you talked about the stadium difference. Like when I ran out there and like I just ran, it was just a sea of red. The horn was blaring. Like it was all. It was just. I was like, dang, like I'm currently achieving like a lifelong dream of playing big time college football. And then I would say when we won the Pinstripe Bowl, that was amazing because like you can only play in bowl games at the FBS level. Like you can't play in bowl games at FCS, which is like Maine D1 AA.
Yep.
So that bowl season is always just there's games on all through the holidays, once the regular season ends. Like that's something that you always want to do as a kid. We were in New York for the week. It was just an amazing experience. Was able to get a ring, and like our record that year was 7-6. So like in the eyes of the program, like obviously you want to have a better record than that, but you were able to cap off a year with a victory. And you're the champions of that game.
Yeah.
So it's just that was pretty cool. To just end my collegiate career on a high note. Standing on the podium and knowing that you won something that's like I mean it's different than just winning a regular season game.
Yeah.
So it was awesome for sure.
Gonna last forever.
Exactly, that's what I'm
So
saying.
where's that ring?
They're all back home right now. My mom she's safeguarding them because sometimes I can misplace things. So all my rings that I've won and
Well, you don't want to misplace that one,
yeah, exactly.
you
So
know. All right, so now we Maine, Rutgers, in August of this year, your phone rings and it's the
or
NFL.
in April,
April is this year.
April.
Okay.
Yep.
the phone rings and it's the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck was that like?
So I mean, a guy in my spot, like I kind of already knew I was gonna go undrafted. I mean, everybody wants to hear their name called, but that's just I think there's only like 250 picks, so it's like, but nonetheless, though, I was waiting around on day three of the draft, and I got a phone call from one of the scouts, and they were like, they just kind of said that they wanted to, sign me and everything, and that was like, I mean, you talk about when people say they feel a weight off of their shoulders, like legitimately, like I felt like all this relief, like just kind of like set over my body, and just a whole bunch of stress and like anxiety I had like built up over those couple of days just released. And it didn't, honestly, I won't even, it never even really hit me like that I am in the NFL, because like, as athletes, we're competitors, like you just, this is what you expect to do, like, but it just, that moment, like, I was with my mom, my brother, my godmom, my god sister, like it was just like an amazing day, and it was, just a whole lot of just weight off the shoulders. And like, when I don't mean that figuratively, I mean it literally.
Yeah.
It just, it was awesome. So it was a great day for sure.
And it's all that hard work paid off.
Literally, it all paid off. Like you get that moment, like you're like, boom, like all the hard work paid off, and then now you're turning a whole new page of even more hard work is to come to, be able to make a living out of this thing. So,
So you sign that letter or that
mm-hmm.
contract.
Yep.
We talked about high school to Maine, Maine to Rutgers. Now, what the hell is it like to show up at an NFL camp?
Yeah, so I mean, I get there, we got a rookie mini camp, and we go through OTAs, and got the summer workouts. But when I got to training camp, that's when things are a bit different, because like, it's a 90-man roster, and it cuts down to 53 active, and then it cuts down to 17 for the practice squad. So you essentially have 90 guys competing initially for the 53-man roster. And it is like you're fighting for your life. Like there's no better way to describe it than other than you're fighting for your life, because like, especially as an undrafted rookie, the odds are the greatest of all. Like it's gonna be really, really hard for you to get to, being able to see that field. And obviously I'm still striving to do that. But, I think one thing to remember is you signed up for it. Like nobody put the pen in your hand, and
Yeah.
no one forced you to sign the contract to come do it. And it's just, I feel like it kind of just goes back to the, obviously you need to work hard and you need to put the time in, but it's like a lot of things in that process are kind of out of your control. Like all you can do, if you're with a team and you get an opportunity to practice, you got to put your gear on, and you got to go out there, and you got to put your best foot forward every single day. And really, it does not matter now if you're tired, if something hurts. Like it's truly like you're going out there, you're fighting for your livelihood. A lot of guys are fighting for their kids. I don't have any kids, so but like, it's a different drive. I mean, I know that you have kids. I'm sure you understand. Like
Yeah.
you got to provide for your family. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yep.
this is a grown man's game. That's the best way to describe it. Like this is truly a grown man's game. It's not a kid's game at this level. But yeah, it's you just attack it like you do anything else. Like that's just how us as athletes we are. Like you just show up every day. You kind of leave how you're feeling. Leave that at home. And you got to go in that facility and just put your best foot forward. That's all you can do.
Let's talk about that for a second. You say you got to let's say leave your feelings at home, man. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how do you, as an NFL guy, show up into that massive competitive environment of
Mhm.
guys that are literally there to hurt you,
Yeah.
right? How do you mentally stay strong in there when you're having a crappy day?
I think I really think like the perspective that I kept was like, what would I be doing if I wasn't here doing this? Like, and what I mean by that is like, there's guys, some people have plans already laid out when college is over. And if they try the NFL and it doesn't work, like they have everything sorted out. And I feel like I have a good idea of what I wanted to do, but like you don't know what that's like just having something like stripped away, like when you've been playing a sport your whole entire life. You know what I mean? So like that's like a complete unknown factor to me. Like I've never had a fall without football since I was 6 years old, right? So
It's your identity.
literally like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, like it makes up so much of who I am. So, I think what kind of kept me going was one, I said it about pretty much every place I was at. There's tons of guys in there that are going through the same exact thing as you, right? And if it comes down to you versus them, like they're not going to spare you because, like we said, we're fighting for our livelihood, we're fighting for our families, we're fighting to create a great life for ourselves. And I just think like it just you got to wake up every single day and you have to like tell yourself like I got to go prove who I am. I got to go give them a reason to want to keep me here another day. And what I realize is every single day in the facility is truly a blessing. I mean, it really is because you see the business side of things, and it's the way it's worked in the NFL for decades, and it's just every single day in there is a blessing. You can't take a day for granted at all because it's just you never know when it could be your last day. Um,
Because they could just walk in and say, Sean, you're out.
that's it. That literally is, and I've saw it happen numerous times. I mean, you talk to the guys who've been in the league for 10 years. How many people they saw that happen to? So it's crazy. It's wild, but like I also said too, I'm the one that signed up for it. You know what I mean? Like nobody put the pen in my hand and grabbed it, and you know what I mean. Like I
Yeah.
like okay, here's a contract, boom, like let's do it. You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's definitely it can be nerve wracking, it can be stressful, but it's really rewarding when you realize that you're part of the 1%. You're a part of the greatest in the world, and just staying, not losing that perspective and truly just appreciating every day. And I feel like that can lead you into a lot of success in this league for
Yeah.
sure.
So what's it like to get paid to play now?
Yeah. I know I will say I definitely Rutgers they were taking care of us over there with their NIL program, but now like this is considered my job, you know what I mean? So I was fortunate enough to be able to earn some NIL, but now it's like it's this is how I'm taking care of myself, you know what I mean? Like this is how I'm able to get my groceries and take care of my car, just whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it's awesome, honestly. You know what I mean? Because it's I'm playing football as my job. Like that's I'm playing a sport that I absolutely love as what I get up and I go. My work is football. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like that's not regular to me. Like that's not a lot of people get to say that their sport is their job and and be happy with that. So it's pretty cool, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
really
I can only imagine.
yeah.
And I'm sure the gear is a heck of a lot better than Rutgers. You get a
I
lot
mean,
more.
it's just that when I was at Rutgers, it was Adidas, and we get Nike here,
Yeah.
and
But you get a lot more now in the NFL
yeah,
than you do in
yeah,
college.
we do get a lot for sure. And I'm a Nike guy at heart, so
All right.
I do like the Nike, but the Rutgers gear was solid too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You get a lot of good stuff. So, how about can you describe the difference in intensity now between Rutgers, Big Ten,
Hmm.
NFL?
I mean, it's kind of hard because like I all I played in was preseason, so like you go from OTAs, you get a kind of a feel for what the speed is like, but it's not as physical. Then you go to training camp, you see it. You go to preseason, it increases a little bit. But obviously playing on Sunday is truly the 1%, whatever. Like that's the highest level possible, But I would say just from my experience in training camp and preseason, um, the physicality of the game, honestly, is the Big Ten will prepare you for that for sure. No, don't get me wrong, and I think in the NFL, there's a bunch of like freaks out there, like Miles Garrett. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
there's certain guys that are just blessed. You know what I mean? And their God given ability has put them on a pedestal to be able to achieve great things in this league. But the Big Ten, and I'm sure the SEC and them other schools. But from my experience in the Big Ten, like when I got there, like I already had a chip on my shoulder from how we, the type of program we were when I was at Rutgers. You know what I mean? But also too, though, I think I want to make sure I acknowledge, the kind of what Maine taught me as well. And you look at some of the history of the guys that went to the NFL from Maine, like you got Matt Mulligan, Mike DeVito, Pat Ricard, just to name a few. Like those you look at their career, like they're hard-nosed players that got the job done and might not always be doing the glitz and glamour, but like they're out there earning their keep. And
Yeah.
I think kind of like Maine has a reputation in the NFL, I believe. Like they're the players that come from Maine are hard-nosed players who are gonna get the job done, like doing whatever it takes. So like I honestly feel like the two schools that I played at, like truly like helped me be able to come in here and match the physicality of what is needed, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to be an NFL caliber player. So it definitely my whole journey in college has for sure propelled me into where I'm at now.
So how about the playbook in the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
Is that crazy or what?
Um, honestly, I think our coaches, I don't know, like I know the systems originate from years ago, and you have coaches who kind of add their flavor on it, but the way Doug and Impress that they kind of have articulated the playbook for us to understand. I think it's pretty cool to understand, and it's also different too. We don't signal in the NFL as much in college. Like the quarterback kind of reads it, so you're just really memorizing words a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, you think about like all the concepts I learned in college, like a lot of the concepts here are still the same. There are some new ones that we use a little bit more, but in terms of like overall, like at this point, I've already done learned a couple playbooks, so it's the same thing. It's the same process. When I was at Rutgers, the playbook was on the iPad. I'm here, my playbook's on the iPad. Like it's the same thing. You just kind of just got to rewire your brain to let the words and the schemes and concepts like hit your mind a little bit different, create some like ways that can help you think a little bit faster. But it
Yeah.
isn't anything like if you can learn a college playbook, then you'll be all right. Now I won't speak on the quarterback position though.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a tight end's perspective though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So how about this from a size perspective for yourself personally?
Mhm.
Freshman year, day one, how heavy were you to now? How much
Yeah.
have you bulked up, grown up?
So when I first got to Maine, I think my height was listed at like 6'4", 6'5", but the weight was 235. And that was like 235 soaking wet. So I probably really was more like 230. And then the heaviest I played at was last season when I was at Rutgers. I was playing at about 260. And now I'm hovering like right around 256, 257. And it's kind of just come with my nutrition, like refining my body. And also when I was in high school, I didn't really lift weights as much, and then I started lifting more and started taking out a lot more serious when I got to college. So I've been through a lot of phases where I've been skinny, I've been a lot bigger, and then I'm kind of just trying to find what works best for me now. Obviously working with the weight that they want me at. Um,
How do you
with the
maintain
Jaguars.
that? I mean, you gained 30 something pounds. Like, how do you
Yeah.
maintain that every day? You just like eat like crazy or what?
Yeah, it definitely is hard. I mean, like I remember like when my first season playing, like I did not eat properly at all. Like I would probably sometimes eat like twice a day. And when I started to look at like why like my body was breaking down towards the end of the season and I was dealing with like injuries, I was like really underweight, I just wasn't eating properly. I wasn't eating frequently enough. And but yeah, it just comes down to, kind of one, a lot of people, we have nutritionists at the facility that help us out. I mean, they have anything you need. A lot of guys, like, they might do like get meal prep services. It just, you got to get your calories
Like,
in.
what's in your fridge? Do you like
Uh,
stock it up or what?
yeah, nah, for sure. I mean, every morning, like at the facility, whether I'm home or at the facility, like I'm usually eating like 5 eggs, oatmeal. And that egg has like a lot of stuff in it, like probably like some chicken, couple of vegetables and things, and then lunch, got definitely probably chicken and rice, broccoli, like the typical things that you hear about these diets. And it seems simple, but like when you get, especially when you're in season and you're tired, like it might be easier to go order a pizza instead of getting up and, spending 25, 30 minutes cooking. Like that's the toughest part is just the discipline to like just challenge yourself to be able to be like, all right, this is the stuff that I need to eat. Let me just stick to this. And that's been the biggest thing that I've kind of been getting better with as I've gotten older is choosing the options that I know are going to help me on the field versus the ones that they might be good in the moment, but I'm probably not going to be feeling the best the next day.
No, no. How about the weight room as the working out evolved and changed over the years?
Yeah, it definitely has. I when I first started out, I was doing everything I could to just get stronger, increasing my numbers in the weight room. You're eating well, you're lifting well. That starts to lead to more an increase in explosion on the field, your speed, power, strength, all those type of things. And I've had awesome strength coaches from the time I got to Maine till where I'm at now, and they've all kind of had their own different philosophies. That's just the kind of the way it is, But now, I mean, we're in season, so things are a little bit different in season now. Like you gotta it's you're putting a lot of wear and tear on your body on Sundays, and even in practice during the week. So it's like you kind of lift a little bit different now than you do in the off season, But I realize too, just as you get older, you just kind of got to learn like maintenance your body a little bit better. And the weight room honestly is your best friend because you can lift weights in there, but it's also so much like it's just a place to go in there and you just take care of your body. Like when you're in the weight room, you're in there, you're moving, like everything in the weight room is for your body, So like more time in the weight room, whether it's not even enduring a lift, like you just go in there, maybe do some mobility, everywhere I've been, the weight rooms always had things like, tension release balls, foam rollers, bands, all that kind of stuff. The strength coaches, their job is literally to help you feel better. So if you go in there and you're like, hey, look, I need this, and that, they'll do it for you. Like, so it's really just utilizing the resources and just believing in,
Yeah.
what they have you doing.
Yeah, be resourceful with the resources, right?
Yeah, literally,
You know.
exactly. Yeah.
So how about any injuries along the way? It sounds like you had a pretty healthy career.
Yeah, no, I've had some injuries for sure. I've had some injuries. My redshirt freshman year, I had a little minor knee injury. I think it was a sprained MCL is what it was. And that happened really, really late in the season. And in my opinion, that was kind of I was really underweight at the time when it happened. I think I started the season at 250, and when I got hurt, I was like 238. So like if you look at the science and you can speak with nutritionists about this, trainers like as you start to lose weight over the course of a season, like your body's just way more susceptible to soft tissue injuries, and especially in when you're playing, like you if your body starts to like lose weight and break down, like you're just gonna get hurt easier. It's just kind of naturally how it happens. And in 2022, that was probably my worst injury I had in college. I fractured my fibula, and I missed the rest of the season. So and that was kind of tough because that was I would say I was on course to definitely have my best season, from a statistical standpoint. And it kind of just got shut down after one play, So but I've been blessed, you know what I mean? I have been really blessed to not really deal with many injuries. It's hard to say how that happens in football, because it's just such a violent game, you know what I mean? And that's why, like, as you get to this level, like the premium is really placed on availability. I mean,
Yeah.
availability is truly your best ability because it's like if you're not able to go out there and show what you can do, then it's like it becomes really difficult for you. You know what I mean? So that's why sleep, recovery, nutrition, hydration, like it's you can never like not be doing enough for your body. It's just like it's constantly just like your body is like how you make your money now. So
Yeah. I love what you just said. Availability is your best ability.
yeah,
It's so true.
yeah,
I mean, you look at an NFL roster, even though this says there's 53 guys that are on the active, right? If you look at there could be 120, 130 total because there's so many injured guys,
yeah.
and they're just injured, 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 and however that works, I don't know. But it's availability is your best ability because you got to be ready.
Yeah, you
Like
have to.
like like this week, like what happens if somebody goes down tonight and they need you? What happens?
And you're like, it's just that's the name of the game. It's next man up. Like
Yeah,
if you're up, and you might only get that one opportunity to show what you can do, and it's like, and that's what also just makes this the business in the game that it is at this level is like, you know, you have to wait for your opportunity. You have to be patient, and when that opportunity comes, like you have to be ready to
yeah,
seize it. You know what I mean? So it's that's the And we talk a lot about like within our team, like we talk a lot about faith, and just like having faith in what you can't see. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea when my number is going to get called. It could be this season, it could be next season, whenever it's going to be. But like whenever that opportunity comes, like I have to be ready. There's like there's nothing, there's no other way to like put it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Like that's it. You know what I mean? You just have to be ready, and so I'm definitely excited for when that time comes for sure.
Now, can another team sign you off the practice squad?
Yeah, yep, they can. Yeah, they definitely they could just be like, hey, like we remember his tape from, preseason or college, whatever, and they can sign you off for the practice squad. So that's definitely something that happens in the NFL.
So you got to be ready like for almost anything, like any team from any day. Because hey, we need you. Let's go.
Yeah, no, that's the crazy part about it for sure. Like you never know. Like you truly never know.
That pressure has just to be intense.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm learning to deal with it a lot better than I was like earlier in the season. And I think the simplest way to put it is just control what you can control. You know what I mean? Like that's something like a lot of my coaches in my life told me. And what I try to control is how I take care of my body, and when I step on the field, my effort. Like that's what I mean. I feel like it's sometimes it's that simple. You know what I mean? Like controlling what you can control is putting your best foot forward, and whatever the results are, like that's what they are. You
Yeah.
can't, a lot of things in this league are out of your control, and it truly just comes down to just focusing on what you're able to control.
Yeah. Well, you've been playing football since what'd you say, six?
Yes, sir. Six. Yep.
6 and 6. And you're how old now?
24.
Oh my God, you're an old man, right? Is looking back, which is you can't really look back that far because you're only 24.
Yeah.
If you were 44, it'd be a little different. But is there anything you would have done differently looking back on your football career?
This is it's crazy you ask that, because this is definitely like a question that I kind of bounce back and forth all the time, and I honestly like I, I think the answer is no. Like, yeah, like now there's tons of things that I know now about, how I could take care of my body, how I could study better, how I could run this route better. Like, I could go on for days about that. But it's like, when you're like, I'm thinking about like what Shawn Bowman was like when he was 12 years old playing football, what Shawn Bowman was like when he was 17 years old playing football. Like, at that time, like I just wasn't probably able to process those type of things. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I feel like they're in your sports journey, like the things that you like are receptive to and that stick with you at that time is just like the way that your mind maybe works at that time. Like coaches have been telling us probably since I was 6 years old to make sure you're sleeping or to make sure you're drinking water. You know what I mean? But like it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years into my time at Maine where I started to like learn about how many ounces of water I need to drink per body weight. Like, but like these are things that I've probably been getting told my whole entire time. Like, oh, when you're in this leverage, when you're trying to block this way, use this arm, whatever it may be. Like, I've been probably getting told these things my whole time, but like I can't sit here and say like, oh, like I wish I could have go back and told 16-year-old Shawn to do a little bit more bench press. Like it at that time, 16-year-old Shawn probably didn't process the importance of So it's just I think you just kind of gotta just, accept things for as how they come, and just learn from the past. So like, yeah,
yeah,
okay, maybe you didn't last year, maybe I didn't eat properly. Well, now I know that wasn't working, so now I can leave that plan behind, and I can move on to the next one. So it's just a process.
yeah. I coined a small phrase a long time ago around that question,
Hmm.
and I say maturity helps you listen better,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And the more immature you are, you might hear what's going on, but you don't listen.
true.
And the more mature you become, the more you start, hey, you know what? That guy was right.
No,
You know,
literally,
you listen.
I feel like that's the story of my life. Like these last like 2 years, like my life has changed so much in the last 2 years, and it's just I've just become like such an observer, and just such a like just like just I guess hungry for knowledge is a good way to put it. Like because there's so many people in this world, like, and then you think about pertaining to me and my sport, like all the people that I encounter, like people are know so much things about like what might not work, and some people spend their whole lives studying just what this one thing might benefit an athletic, a person in athletics. So it's like I really have just been trying to just absorb as much knowledge as I can, and like just use it for any advantage that I'm able to, you know what I mean, like whatever it may be, from a football perspective, from being a better brother, being a better son, being a better boyfriend, like
Yeah.
anything, you know what I mean? It's just like there's just I think there's just so much valuable to just like value to listening nowadays. It's
Yeah.
just listen and just see what people have to say.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've done a lot of really good listening because, you've been growing and developing along the way,
Yeah,
and you've reached your goal that you've had since you're a little kid.
yeah,
And like you said, I don't even think it's 1%. It's less than 1%
yeah,
make the
sure.
NFL. It's got to be like, it's less than 1% of high school athletes even go to anywhere, let alone, guys make the NFL.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's crazy when you think about that,
Yeah, nah,
you
for
know.
sure. I think yeah, I mean I even think about all the like different coaches that I've had just from my time in college, you know what I mean? I've been playing football since I was 6, but even just like, from looking at from when I was 18 to 23 in college, like all the messages I've got from different coaches in there, it's you just take little things that
Yeah.
stick with you and you just, incorporate them into your life.
Silly question. We're wrapping it up in a second. Silly question. What's your favorite number?
18.
What number you got now?
Oh, right now I have 49. And that was just the number they gave me, So I'm not playing right now currently. I'm still, on practice squad, but I'm sure, when the time comes for me to play, I'll probably see if I can talk to our equipment guy, whoever I need to speak to about getting into a more favorable number. But hey,
Right.
49 is a part of the journey now, you know what I mean? So, 49,
I'll take any number in the
that's what I'm
NFL.
saying. It's the NFL jersey, exactly. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm
And
cool.
they got an extra number out there now, zero.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a new one, you know.
exactly. Yeah.
You
So
know.
that's
Well, Sean, listen, we've talked about your awesome journey from being a little kid, through high school, through Maine, through Rutgers, now in the NFL. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything that you and I haven't chatted about that you think we should hit on before we wrap it up?
I think the biggest thing that I've like kind of been following lately, and it's really been just a accumulation from little league, the coaches that I met there, and from even my time at Maine, like a lot of the things that I was taught there and Rutgers till now is like, it's you're gonna have so many people along the way that help you, that teach you little things. But at the end of the day, like no one's gonna can be more honest with you than yourself, and like I think just it's up to you, whether it's a sport you're playing, whether it's a business ambition you're chasing, like it's up to you to create the discipline in your life. Like you're gonna have coaches that hold you accountable, you're gonna have friends and teammates that hold you accountable, but there's gonna be no one that can hold you more accountable than yourself. Like it's if things aren't going your way, like you're gonna know like more than likely what the cause was, and I just think like the biggest thing for athletes, for anybody in general, is just like trust yourself, believe yourself, and create the discipline for yourself. And I think that'll create a lot more just acceptance of like the way things go in life for a person. Is just like I've done everything I could. I've instilled like standards, and I hold myself to a certain standard, and it's just at that point you've done everything you can, and I think that's the biggest thing is just find a way to discipline yourself. And I don't mean like in terms of like you say discipline someone like like punish yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
Just like just the things that you want to achieve, like find what works best for you to be able to achieve that. And I think things will be able to go a lot better for people for sure.
Well, I mean, the word discipline and accountability,
Mhm.
most people look at those as negatives.
Yeah, that's it. Like discipline sound like I'm
No.
disciplining you. Like it sounds bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, you're disciplined to do the right things. You're
yeah,
holding yourself accountable to make the right choices, But you know what? Who's the easiest person to lie to? It's yourself.
literally.
It's yourself, and because nobody's questioning yourself.
Yeah,
Because you look in the mirror, you know what you're talking about.
look in the mirror, like if you didn't play a good game, like look back at what you did during the week.
Yeah.
Did you do what you needed to do? So it's you're yourself. You can be your biggest critic. So it's definitely just self reflection. I think is one of the most important things that anybody could do.
Yep. Yep. Well, Shawn, man, this has been great. I
Sir,
really appreciate you taking the time out of your, I'm sure, ridiculously busy life in the NFL
no,
and the crazy stuff you got to do. And, your story's awesome. You
yes,
know,
sir.
there's so many young boys and young
Mhm.
men that are going to hear your story out there, and they're going to say they've learned something from you.
No doubt. I appreciate that,
You
Jeff,
know,
for sure.
which is really cool.
It was
And
definitely. Oh
I'm
my.
looking forward to seeing you running down that field in the NFL.
Yeah, man. No, it's coming soon for sure.
It's coming. It's
Yeah,
coming. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
a win for sure. So,
You know?
no, Jeff, I definitely appreciate it though. It was an honor to come on here. You know what I mean? And obviously, both of us being Maine alumni,
Yep.
the brotherhood runs deep for sure. You know, what I mean, I really appreciate you for sure.
Well, listen, again, I appreciate your time and best of luck, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Yes, sir. Have a great day, Jeff.
You got it.